From years of anxiety to warrior and mentor, Bradley Robinson created the Anxiety Project to help you end your anxiety naturally. Let's mold the new you and let's end anxiety together.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Anxiety Project podcast. This is number 22 coming at you. I am your host with the most on anxiety recovery. Let's get started. We're going to talk about anxious patterns today. Anxious patterns, the patterns you run on a daily basis when dealing with anxiety. And I used to run all these patterns back in the day. They can go from, being shallow breathing to, dizziness, lightheadedness, shaking. A lot of aches and pains in the body that I always tune in, always conscious of the pains and stuff, worried about, oh, this is probably an illness. What if it's this? Then Googling it and the depersonalization, walking around with foggy mind, hazy mind. You can't really seem to get a grasp of the present moment. And it's a constant battle. And the battle with your mind is the toughest battle of your life, because the mind controls everything, right? The mind and the body are connected. And there's so many different layers to the body that people don't know about. So there's the spiritual aspect of it. Think of it as a snowman, right? As a snowman. So you have 4 huge, big snowballs, right? The very top snowball is your spiritual higher self. The second snowball would be the mental. And the third snowball would be the emotional. And the bottom snowball would be the physical, the physiology, right? And this makes up you, the human being, right? If you neglect the emotional or you neglect the physical part of yourself or the emotional part, you're out of balance. You're out of balance, and you're walking around with a lot of heavy baggage. This heavy baggage is weighing you down. And I remember all of this baggage in my mind. I couldn't even construct thoughts. My thoughts were very hard to construct. I would have trouble concentrating, and I would have a short attention span. And I never knew my body, right? I never built a rapport with my unconscious mind, right? That's what it's all about. This journey that you're on to overcome anxiety, you have to build rapport with your unconscious mind, because your unconscious mind is running the show, okay? Your unconscious mind is running the show here. And, the more we react to external events, the more it gets stored within our subconscious mind. And this affects us, right? Our beliefs and, our values and, the spiritual side of us is out of whack. And then, it affects the physical body, because being anxious is not helping you physically, and it's not good. Mentally, you're foggy. So there's a lot of components here to really take in. What is really going on in the body that's making you anxious, that's making you feel like, confused, and you don't know what to do. Well, it stems from a lot of beliefs. I had a huge pile of beliefs that that I didn't even realize existed until I started implementing NLP techniques and really getting to know myself better. Stop not trying, like, I was always in a rush to really satisfy my desires quickly, whether it was, junk food, whether it was watching TV, playing video games, or smoking weed. These things that, I just needed to satisfy myself quickly. And once I was in my anxiety disorder, I realized that I wasn't taking care of myself, and I had a lot of things to deal with. And that's why I was completely sensitized when I was going through anxiety. I was completely sensitized. I was walking around, confused, and I was hardly eating. I was getting night terrors. In the middle of the night, I couldn't sleep properly. I wasn't getting enough sleep. That affected my physical body, that affected my mind and my emotions, and no one wanted to be around me, and I didn't want to be around other people. And then everything was just chaos. It was chaos. But through chaos, through the hell, reaches a point of lightness, the light. And I needed to go through that hell to reach consciousness, to reach my higher self. I needed to lug myself through the mud, through the shit, and I needed to come to a realization, okay? But I needed to learn was the first thing. I can't stress this enough. Learning about what anxiety is and just learning from other role models how to overcome it. Okay, learning from other people. You listening to this podcast right now, you're on the journey. You're learning. I'm providing the information. You're taking it in. You're learning. And that's the stepping stones to living a more fulfilled life with a higher purpose. And it just takes one step at a time, implementing these techniques, dedication, perseverance, persistence, and you just have to stick with it no matter what. Because when I was going through my anxiety and when I was listening to podcasts and YouTube videos, I knew that, sometimes I wasn't even paying attention, right? And I was having a hard time focusing on all the information about anxiety. It was overwhelming, but I realized my subconscious mind was taking in all of the information. You might leave at the end of this podcast with a little bit of information here and there, but your unconscious mind stored a lot more than you think. Your subconscious mind is like the 90%. It's like the iceberg, right? Your subconscious mind is the 90%. Your conscious mind is the 10%. So don't worry, because if you're not absorbing all of this information, listen to it again. You'll absorb more, sure. But your subconscious mind is absorbing a lot more than you think. And just you taking the time to listen to this is really important, and you're getting so much value from it, and you should reward yourself for it. So, and one thing, all of these anxious patterns that you're running, it's a sign, from your subconscious to really give back to yourself, because, the reason I went through the hell, aka the anxiety disorder, the reason I went through it was because my subconscious mind was like, come on, dude, it's time to take care of yourself. If this isn't a hint to, give back to yourself and to pay attention, then, what else could there be, right? Pay attention. A lot of the body zaps that I was experiencing, the body aches, the random, I had at one point, I thought my kidney was, infected or something bad was happening, but it turned out nothing bad happened. I went to the doctors a few times, and I kept believing, there's something wrong with me. It hurts. I can feel the pain every day, but I didn't have anything wrong with me. It was actually repressed emotional issues stored within the body. Remember, the mind and body are both one. Okay? They're both one. So the body's important. If you're neglecting one of the four aspects of the body, the spiritual, mental, emotional, physical, if you're not neglecting one of them, one affects the other. And that's, it's important to understand that, because, your body's telling you something that, you haven't taken care of these issues yet, and your habits and your identity must change. You must model after people who have gotten to where they are now, and use the techniques and the steps they took, right? So a lot of people don't tell you this, but there are three ways of feeling, right? There's a spectrum. Along the spectrum, there's, on one end, there's depressed, anxiousness, furious, you're angered. And on the other end of the spectrum, you have happy, you have excited, and and in the middle is calm. Now, there's which is neutral. There's the neutral area right in the middle, and I like to call that peace as well. Peace, to be completely in the moment. I feel pretty good right now. And you're enjoying the surroundings. You're feeling the cool air on your skin or the heat of the sun. You're enjoying a nice cup of tea, and you're on the train or something, and you're just in that moment. And that's where the spectrum is most beautiful. And people don't know how to get, people, they're either happy or angry. Well, no, there's another way to be. There's calm, there's neutralness. And how did we get to that neutralness? That's the ticket area. That's the area where you want to be. And I've reached that area. I'm in that area 90% of the day. 90% of the day I'm in calm, peaceful, because I've trained myself to be there over months. It's been a long time, but there's a way to be. And complete acceptance, right? To be completely, accepted in the moment, accepting the moment for what it is, and not looking at those bodily zaps and those aches and pains as something serious, but looking at it for what it is and not being afraid. Because when it comes down to it, it would be the fear of death, right? That's the underlying fear, because we have like, we're scared it could be an illness, a disease, right? But then there's also an underlying fear that people don't realize. And these underlying fears, these underlying beliefs keep people sensitized, because people don't know how to deal with them, how to get in touch with those underlying beliefs. And underlying beliefs would be, I had the fear of dying. And so it'd be like, I have the fear of, my kidney being a disease. Okay, but underneath that, I didn't realize, wait, it's not just the kidney disease or whatever that I was afraid of, but wait, I have an actual underlying fear of dying. And that's something I had to reframe. And that's something I had to really deconstruct and really look at. So that was very important to recognize. And yeah, and when you're walking around with anxiety, you have, and I experienced this most of the time, it was reflexive thoughts. Reflexive thoughts are, you're aware of something and then you immediately feel it. So it may be like, you know, you're aware of a horrible thought, and then you feel it instantly. There's no in between. And the in between is the belief that, in the in between thought is the belief. So to break it down, a reflexive thought is you're aware of something and then you feel it right away, and you act on it right away. But a regular train of thought would be, you're aware of something, there's the belief about it, and then the feeling and behavior. And when you start questioning things with your conscious mind, you start to attack that and start to dig out the belief, right? If you're having reflexive thoughts and you start using your conscious mind, and when I say conscious mind, it's that internal self-talk. When you start to attack it in a more positive and constructive way, where you're like, okay, well, what else could this mean? What else could this pain in my body mean? Stressful day? Or it could be, I didn't get enough sleep. Or it could be, well, I've been sitting down all day. Oh, my back could just be hurting from that. I should stretch. And when we start to perceive things differently and use conscious thought to against that feeling, right? Against that feeling, then we start to dig out a new belief, and we start to really get to notice the in between, the belief about it, right? When our thought patterns, and that was something that really struck me when I was overcoming anxiety. It's the in between. I started to really get my conscious mind activated more often. I was like, you know what? My goal today is to really get my conscious mind really activated. And I want to perceive things differently, feelings differently. These aches and pains in my body, I'm going to perceive them differently. When it shows up, I'm going to be like, what else could this mean? Just that statement alone. What else could this mean? Well, my mind and body are one. Well, this little pain could be because I'm stressed out today. I'm overworking myself. Or it could mean that I have a repressed issue that I needed to deal with. Or it could mean, many things, right? And the likelihood of it being that illness or disease is very minimal. Mind you, though, I would recommend going to the doctors and getting checked out. I would recommend that, which I did at the time, with my kidney and all that stuff. Finding out that, I was healthy. Well, I didn't feel healthy, right? So that's because, like I said before, my whole equilibrium was way off. I wasn't taking care of myself, and I wasn't on a good diet, and I wasn't eating the right foods, and diet was a really huge component as well. So these are the many anxious patterns that anxiety sufferers go about and face on a daily basis. And these are the patterns I faced, all of these ones. And, during my podcast episodes, I always tackle different patterns, anxious patterns, and how to get rid of, and start to move towards your higher self. And that's really the goal of the podcast. And that's it for today's episode, guys. I hope you really enjoyed it. I really would like for you guys to comment, leave a comment, rate this podcast on iTunes, please. And check out my YouTube channel, The Anxiety Project. All I post there is techniques for overcoming anxiety, how to get to a more conscious state in life. And that's what it's all about, guys. Like, just to be more at peace in that middle area. Remember that spectrum. You know, there's depressed on one side, there's excited and happy on one side, but there's also that peace. And in that middle area is where you can, react to things differently. This is where you can start to show some space in your reaction. So, that's where you want to be. You want to be where you can react accordingly, not just react, just because your ego gets really struck by somebody, or gets really struck in a situation. But it's more like, you have a period of reaction reaction, right? You have a period of space where you can decide how you want to react. And that's the middle spectrum is where we want to be. Okay, guys, thank you so much. Remember, do not let anxiety define who you are. I'll see you on the next episode. Bye, everybody. For more podcast episodes, for more video content, and one-on-one coaching with me via Skype, visit www.unpluganxiety.com for everything you need to know about ending anxiety naturally. I love you all. Have a great day. Bye-bye.